to return the thorn. Woman's pain was increased to bring forth the newborn. Is it worth it to have a child twice born? Born into sin, brought forth in iniquity. There is no escaping the damnation that was meant for me. As I read on, my situation seemed worse, but the Lord was so strong, God be forever sacrificing animals. Come to think, what good would it do? For that is not for me, I'm just a Gentile, not a Jew. I scanned the pages, there was too much to take. I know there must be good news coming from heaven for my sake. I flipped the pages, there was sin and God's judgment. Sin was so strong, it broke the chains of His covenant. I skipped past the old and turned to the new. This testament will testify that I'm chosen too. It warmed my heart to see that God knows the sin, so He impregnated the virgin so that I might be saved. I have peace and joy through it all, to know that my life is not determined by man's fall. I leaped up and made the joyous